right, I am here at DakuCon with Michaela Laws.
Michaela Laws, yeah.
Laws, I wanted to make sure you're
Not a problem.
You are a VTuber, voice actor, as well as artist.
Yeah, slight artist and then also director, writer, basically jack of all trades at this point.
How did you get started?
Well, I wanted to get into the creative field a long time. Do I face you at the camera, or does it really matter?
Camera's probably
Absolutely. I started off wanting to do something creative. I wanted to go into theater because singing and acting have been my entire life. And then I found voice acting, going to a convention one of these days, and I went, you know what, let's just try going to voice acting, and I did. And then I found ways to expand into storytelling, directing, doing all of this fun stuff, and being able to play video games and doing things I love. So it just kind of branched from a small dream all the way up into just finally having the courage to just do it. So there.
So speaking of finding the courage, what were some of your first projects?
My first project?
Yes.
I would say my first notable and just successful project would be Seduce Me the Otome. I made it back in 2014, 15. That it's free right now, available right now. And it was just my first swing into just trying to create a character, create a story that people can really enjoy, create a romance that people would just fall in love with. And it just blew up into the point where now it's available on consoles and available as a complete story pack.
Right, and then I know on your table you have a ton of projects you have been part of. What is some of your favorites?
Oh gosh, that's actually really, really hard to say because I love all of the projects I work on. I loved working on Sucker for Love as Lynetta. I love working with Aphmau as her mom. I loved directing all of these fun anime shows, and they're 18 plus, but I loved working on Fire in His Fingertips. I loved working on Game World Reincarnation. I also love the goofiness of Henkei Shoujo, being that despite all the seriousness of taking the work very seriously, there was just one time we're just, you know what, we're just going to goof, we're going to meme it, we're just going to have fun in the booth. And yeah, I would say majorly the point, if I was able to have fun just joking around and laughing, then that's probably going to be a highlight of working on the projects that I work on.
And then as an NSFW creator, how is that working for you? Sorry if I'm not phrasing it correctly.
Absolutely, yeah. Being an NSFW artist and voice actor, it's really, really fun because now that the world's finally opening up to NSFW content and talking about sex and sexuality and all of that stuff, we finally get to open up about what is consensual, but also what is making us happy and what is doing all of that stuff in the creative fields of NSFW, to where there's so many opportunities to talk about really fun projects, really fun ways we can fuck each other and maybe not fuck each other. And it's just fun being able to just kind of release and let go in a world where it's also constrictive. So yeah.
And then how does that work like as a VTuber? Because I'm guessing you can be a little more NSFW on that side. So
yeah.
How is it balancing between the safe work side and the NSFW side?
Well, I have two VTubers, so my safer work side, I still am very educational. I still like to try and open up my audience to talking about sex in a positive manner, making sure people are comfortable with talking about such. And having both a safe work and a not safe for work opens up the avenue of just, if you are old enough to really get into the details, into the finer works of things, we can explore worlds where sex is a prominent part of games or a prominent part of like storylines such as like hentai and all that stuff. And VTubing, because it is an animated form, people can really just kind of get into it rather than just hear a real person kind of talk and lecture their butt off about it. And so it's kind of like this this immersion-driven medium, if you would.
So because I'm guessing you started with the anime first. How did you go from like into VTubing transition?
Well, actually, I was at one point deadly afraid of cameras, so it's very rare that you see me on camera right now. But when VTubing came around, I finally got a chance to kind of express myself and be able to show a side of me, and also the version I wish people would see of me, to a visual and outwardly standpoint. When it started with my safer work stuff, it was the storyteller I wanted to be. It was someone who doesn't stand out, but is there to be as a guide. And then my NSFW side is obviously the more sexual representation of my hypersexuality. So yeah.
And then for someone who is of age but has yet to get experiences, like what are some recommendations for them to be safe and make sure they're keeping themselves safe as keeping their partners safe?
Absolutely. If you are wanting to explore into the world of NSFW, then definitely I would say first do your basic research. There are many content creators out there in the SFW world who do openly talk about NSFW stuff in an educational format. There are people who talk about BDSM, kink, having just general sexual relationships, even going so far as to be like, how does one live with kink around you? So there are YouTubers, there are content creators who just talk about this, and make sure you do it in the educational way. They'll basically be like, yeah, we're here and we're not framing this as you're gonna see porn here. And then when you're ready and you're willing to take that step forward, you can go into NSFW spaces, and really there's a lot of places like on Discord and Twitter and all that stuff where you can have those conversations safely and have it monitored to where you will be protected. So, yeah.
Had another follow-up on that, and I apologize, brain just died for a second.
It's all good.
So what are some like non-anime related projects you have found enjoyable in this?
Non-anime related, me personally, it's just video games. I'm gonna say it, I love Baldur's Gate 3, but I've also grew up with classical games like Final Fantasy. That's literally how I learned how to read, is reading Final Fantasy from my mom's playthroughs. And video games, as well as reading books, have just been able to open up my mind to a lot more things, and it's just a fun, immersive way to kind of escape the world where the world is kind of crumbling in on itself. And if you can't handle it, there is a place you can escape to temporarily. So yeah.
All right. Ray? How is it like working with Ascended?
Oh, working with Ascendant is incredibly fun. Ascendant started out wanting to give everyone an opportunity to really step into the world of anime dub development. And so when I was there at the beginning, when we started, they were all like, we're just going to give everyone a fair shot. If they have the equipment, if they have the skills, then we want to hear them, regardless of your background, regardless of who you are, what you've done. We want to hear you and we want to see you. And we've been blessed to be able to be the first start for plenty of talents, especially like Fire at His Fingertips, Game World Reincarnation. There are people who have never stepped into an anime booth finally getting their shot. And for us, be able to say that we helped people kind of have that shot, as well as having the representation of having not just the typical names, but having those in the LGBTQ space, those who have different races, who have different representations of their own. It's been a blessing in that regard, and Ascendant really help that blossom.
All right, and then this will be the final question, but for someone who does want to follow your footsteps in a way, what are some recommendations on taking the next step?
I would suggest doing your research on making sure you know what you want to do. Your path can change immediately, or even just all the way, like when you're halfway down the path, it can change at any time. So make sure whatever you desire, you take it seriously, you do your research diligently, and you make sure you take every precaution to know that there are resources out there for you to learn how to properly do the job, and to learn how to be able to thrive in the industry without feeling like it's being gatekept or all of that stuff where just there's a lot of negativity around. And if at any point you want to change course, it is okay. You are not wasting your time. You didn't waste your time. It is okay to change course midway through.
Awesome. And thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely.
You can find Michaela on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I'm guessing anywhere the sun shines on social media. Or
if you look at my name, you'll probably find me.
Thank you once again, and it has been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much.